Welcome to the Do More podcast, where we share strategies and tips for improving your life in every aspect. Here's your host, John Farling.
All right, today we've got Ian Horowitz out of Philadelphia, PA. A very good buddy of mine. We met probably about 3 years ago, almost exactly 3 years ago, I believe. And he is involved in a lot of real estate investing, from single family, multifamily, what else? Warehouse. Obviously, self-storage is a big thing. And you and I have done some mastermind events together that I'm sure we'll get into. But why don't you introduce yourself to the tens of people that are listening?
Well, to the tens of thousands of people that are listening to the number, well, I guess technically it's the number 2 podcast in the whole universe because mine's number 1. Yes, most of you probably know me, but if you don't, my name's Ian Horowitz with Equity Warehouse. We're actually based out of Baltimore, Maryland. I now live in Philadelphia. We own and operate a relatively large portfolio, not to brag, but it's approaching.
It's pretty big, right?
It's approaching 9 figures, and we do encompass everything from single family Airbnbs to multifamily, self-storage, and commercial real estate as a whole. Our primary focus is multifamily and self-storage. However, we're opportunistic investors, and we will look at a deal if you have a deal, and we'll try to figure out if it's something that fits into our wheelhouse.
So take us back. You didn't start there, obviously. You didn't start last week. You didn't start last year. Take us back to the beginning. When did you start getting the itch for real estate investing? How'd that happen? I know you've got a partner, so how did all that kind of form?
Yeah, I mean, I've told this story quite a bit, and some of you maybe have seen it, but it's always good to recap it because for those that don't know, my business partner and I, we were both firemen for the city of Baltimore. If you ever watched The Wire, if you saw the riots that happened, we worked in the heart of West Baltimore. And we got hired in a very turbulent time. He got hired in 2007. I got hired in 2008. And almost immediately from the day I left the academy, I had about 6 good months under my belt. We got furloughed. They closed companies. They started messing with our pension system. Obamacare came that raised healthcare for everybody in this country. Just work conditions, no overtime. We're in our mid-20s going on 30. And, wives start saying, hey, I want to have kids. And you're like, shit, how do I afford this? And then she's like, well, I want to have a house. I'm like, fuck, I really don't know how to afford this. And then there was like the other component that came along of we were working in a job that could literally kill you, incapacitate you, put you on your ass tomorrow. How do you survive? I mean, we work for a ghetto ass city. I mean, we're talking, in 2008, Detroit goes bankrupt, just tells all the pensioners, fuck it. Sorry, we're not paying you anymore. California, literally the whole state just goes under and says, we're not paying our pensioners anymore. Private industries are going bankrupt. We don't pay Social Security. And I said, man, I need to do something that's going to create a solid retirement. God forbid something happens to me, my wife can step in and run that business, right? Like it's not an active business. It's a passive business per se. And something that will give us a nest egg at the end. And really what I wanted was something that I can make money while I'm asleep. And the only way that I can think to how to do that was real estate. And I was like, well, okay.
Well, how'd you get there? You didn't just say, oh, we're real estate investing. Something happened, right? Something.
I have not talked about that much. So that was kind of my thesis of why I wanted to get into real estate. Side by side with those conversations in my head of like, well, how am I going to do this? My in-laws and my wife's family, they own and operate. I'm actually sitting in the building today. They owned and operated a small engine repair shop. So commercial lawnmowers, weed whackers, you name it. That's what they did, lawn equipment. And they had a guy that would come in every year and he would just buy a new lawn equipment. So one year, after 30 years of being in business, he doesn't show up anymore. And they said, hey, where are you? And he says, well, I don't need lawn equipment this year because I retired. And they're like, well, wait a second. Like, you had all these guys that worked for you. Like, what's up? And he was like, yeah, I just every winter I'd buy a house in the local town close to where we grew up. There's a small little city that's not the best. It's called Norristown. He's like, every year I just buy a house and I would get a Section 8 tenant, and that's what I would do. And I was like, well, shit, like that's interesting. Because they, hanging around the family, they were telling me the story, and I'm like, well, yeah, I really want to get into real estate. And I was like, shit, that's awesome. So I started doing research. I started reading books. Selfishly, the best Section 8 book is Subsidized, the one that Dan and I wrote. But I actually read the Section 8 Bible. It was 2 guys out of Philadelphia. I read that thing cover to cover. I took it to work with me every single day. I just kept reading this thing through and through. I was like, there's no way this is this great. And you got to remember, we're working in like really, low income areas. And like you could almost tell the difference. Like, man, why would this house be so nice in this neighborhood? And I started to put 2 and 2 together from the book and how things worked. And I was like, oh man, that's interesting. And then one day after work, someone's like, hey, I'm going to this real estate meetup. You want to go? And I was like, yeah, sure, whatever. So I go, I walk in, and the lady's like, yeah, I can't wait for so-and-so to show up. This guy that actually wanted to be my mentor for a very short period of time. And they're like, yeah, he has hundreds of Section 8 houses. And I was like, dude, this is it. Like, this is the guy I want to hear speak. So he gets up there, he starts speaking, and she's like, yeah, just kidding. And it was one of these like pyramid scheme selling electric things or whatever. And I was like, yo, dude, like, you want to get out of here? Like, let's go grab a drink, and I want to pick your brain. And I went and picked his brain side by side with reading these books and the other dude's experience. And I was like, shit, dude, like, I remember reading that in chapter 3. Like, this is how you do this. And it was almost like word for word. I'm like, yo, this dude read this book and he's just lying to me. And whatever, went round and round, drink for drink with the guy. About the only time being able to drink a lot paid off for me in my life. And he's like, hey, man, if you ever really want to get into this, just give me a shout, stay in touch. And I stayed in touch. And a little bit later, he shot me a house. I said, yep, let's do it. And off we went. So really, how did I get involved? That's a long way to say, how did I get into the business? Well, I got into the business by learning and reading about it and hearing other people's experience. And I went and found someone and went and did it. That's the story. I mean,
yeah, and that's powerful. I mean, I obviously, we talk quite a bit. You're an action taker. My guess is you're an action taker back then too, but you heard a story. You heard that real estate investing was powerful. You found a niche in Section 8 from that conversation. You found somebody to learn from. You found a book. So you took all that action. How long between, we'll say, the first conversation of Section 8 between then and buying your first, I'm assuming, Section 8 house? How long was that period?
Yeah, I mean, that's 2012. Market was a little different then. We're coming out of the financial crisis. I have no trauma whatsoever from 08 because I was literally a broke piece of shit. Like, you guys got to understand, like, I had 15 grand in my name. My credit score was maybe like 575. Like, I had a relatively turbulent past. And, it was just a different time. So I was able to pick up a house within probably 90 to 180 days of reading that book. And really, from the time I met that gentleman at that meetup to when I bought my first house was under 60 days. As soon as I said, hey, man, I'm really interested, I went and met him out one other time. He said, listen, anything comes up, I'll let you know. I didn't know what wholesaling was then. Some wholesaler hits him up and says, hey, I got this house for 20 grand. You want in? And I was like, dude, I'm in. I have no clue how I'm going to pay for it. Nothing. And that's where I remember reading about hard money loans, and I got a hard money loan, and I put my last $15,000 out. I had no clue I was going to refinance it. I just said, you know what? If I lose all the money that we have, in 2012, 29 going on 30. And I'm just like, fuck it. If I lose it all, I still have 20 years of career left. I'll work my way out. Like, I didn't care about, like, if I lost it all, went bankrupt, I was like, well, fuck it. My credit's already screwed up anyway, so who cares? And if I lost it all, I'm like, well, I only had 15 grand. I'll just eventually go work overtime, or I'll work other side jobs. I've had other failures in my life. Like, failing at money didn't bother me because I had already failed at dealing with money. So I was like, screw it, just go do it, and ultimately, I didn't realize that we had massive tailwinds at our back at that time. Yeah. That's what would launch us to the next level because we hit the market at the right time. I like to think that we're super smart and we knew all these investment theses and we knew how to manage money better than other people. But I will admit, 100% that we hit the market at exactly probably the absolute bottom and right time to get into real estate.
Yeah. I mean, there's some of that, but you guys you learned a few things, educated yourself, found a mentor, took action, and then obviously the rest you're consistent. We'll talk about that. But I think you said something that maybe was kind of overlooked was you weren't afraid to take risk. You weren't afraid to lose money. And it's funny because at some point, more likely, most of us have gotten real estate investing. We're in 9 to 5 and then wanted to get out and do something else or do something more. And to me, it's a bigger gamble of not trying that than it is trying it and failing. Really, if that one house would have failed, you wouldn't have gone bankrupt and broke, right? Like, what's the worst that really could have happened there? It's funny that we kind of equate taking a risk like that, buying one house, that it may ruin our entire lives, right? It's weird that society's kind of set us up that way.
Well, society is set up against us, right? Like, they don't teach us about money in school, right? I'm not trying to make this political. Let's be serious.
We'll make it political. Do it.
Well, I mean, there's a reason I homeschool my kids, right? They don't teach about money in school. They don't teach about how to make alternative investments. Alternative investments are only for the rich and wealthy and uber important. Well, dude, like, are we not important? We make the world go round, right? And when you look at that, you're like, well, why don't they teach this? Because they want you to invest in the stock market. And look, I never really understood stocks because I was like, so wait a second, I got to put a bunch of money in a stock fund that I have zero control over, and that magically one day at a later date, if I put away this much money and then there's X percent amount of growth, then it'll be worth $1 million when I retire. And I was like, well, fuck, $1 million is nothing. And I was like, well, I'd rather buy a rental property that I can go see, feel, and touch. Yes, it'll create a lot of gray hair for you and or lose a lot of hair, depending how you do this. But if I could go invest in a house and over the next 30 years, I make a few $100s of cash flow, and then someone else pays my mortgage off, well, that's a $150,000 savings account that I didn't have to save up for. Someone else made that savings for me. And it's almost like the banks are financing your future wealth. And I'm like, well, shit, that makes a lot of sense to me. Cool, let's do that, right? And they don't teach you these things because ultimately society or the man or whatever you want to look at, I know people call it the matrix right now, the man, whatever you want to call it, they do want you to be a worker bee. They don't want you to break the mold. They don't want you to have success for a reason because you stay inside the system. And then when you break the system, and we can talk about that when I quit my job, how crazy that was. When you break that mold and you figure it out, like what you can unlock in life is so much, it's just insane what you can do. I mean, you've done it. I've done it. We know multiple other real estate investors and business owners that have done it. It is a really powerful thing once you can get out of that grind every single day. They want you to get up at 6 a.m. They want you to go get your breakfast from Wawa or Dunkin' Donuts or wherever it is. They want you to have an hour commute to work. They want you to be at your job from 9 to 5. Hint, hint. Why do you think you go to school and the bell rings, move you from class to class, right? It's the same as going to work and the bell rings and keeps it moving. And I know if you read some older books, that's literally what the Rockefellers were talking about. Well, they have a lot of great ideas on one side. They had a lot of really evil things on the other side. And I don't know, man. It's pretty crazy when you really get down into it.
Yeah, it's a hamster wheel, right? And then, well, it's funny. And then once you get off the hamster wheel, the tax system is set up for people that's off the hamster wheel, right? And we're not taught that until you've got to do your own research, basically, right? You're not going to be taught it. Your CPA is not going to tell you. You're going to have to figure it out on your own. That's probably another.
But how can you learn it if you're at work all the time? How can you figure it out? Like I remember, like. Again, you're seeing a culmination of years of work from being John and I and many other people that put themselves out there, right? And that's why it's hard for us to put ourselves out there because we're still working every single day. But, dude, you got to remember, like, I would go to work and I would sit right where the riots happen. When you see the CVS burn, go look up CVS burning in Baltimore City during the riots. We would get runs there all night long, dude. I mean, it was where there was a bus stop. It's north in Pennsylvania Avenue. And it's just a shithole. We'd be out there picking up drug addicts and all this other crap middle of the night. 2 o'clock in the morning, I'm bringing my phone with me after I got woken up to go handle something. I was driving. I just sit there and scroll deals. Man, how's this person do this deal? I would YouTube. I would learn 24 hours around the clock. Where most people, they go to work, right? They get up, they go do their workout, they go to work all day, they get home, they're beat, watch a little bit of TV, watch a little bit of sports, and next you know they're going to bed and they don't consume any content to make themselves better. And the reason I bring this up is because I just went through this again, man. I felt really out of place. Like I really enjoyed watching the Phillies trying to get to the World Series, and I was thankful enough to be able to go to the games, but then I was so sucked in. I was like, man, I'm up late every night. I'm fucking beat, dude. Like I hadn't been watching sports for the last several years. All I've been doing is consuming content, how to buy business, how to buy real estate, what's the next best thing? What are other people doing? That's all I would spend my time doing every night. Like so sometimes me and my wife would beef about it. And then when I go and watch TV, I feel so out of sync where I should be consuming content and learning. And most people don't want to take that extra step to go learn, break the mold, and go be something better than really what they're doing every day.
Yeah, we're gonna get off track here, but I like it. I was hoping we do that. I think there's a time and place for entertainment, right? Sports is awesome. We both played sports, but watching the Phillies, that's one thing. But if you're in a situation that you want out of, and you're watching sports the entire weekend, or like you said, a few hours at night when you get home, you're still on that hamster wheel, and you're also in someone's alternate universe. You're basically playing fantasy football because you're not playing. What are you getting out of that? I get like every once in a while, don't get me wrong. Like I watch some basketball, I watch some golf, I watch a little bit of football, but it's half hour here, half hour there. It's probably not more than a total of 2 hours a month. It doesn't consume me, but right. Yeah, I mean, I think it's like a virtual reality, and they want us. That's part of the hamster wheel. They want us to keep on that.
Well, think about how many people have like fantasy football draft parties and they're traveling and doing. I'm like, what are you spending money on? Like to go do that? Like, never really was my thing. And I enjoy like a little bit of sports betting, but I'm not gonna like stay up all night, like sitting there going, oh my God, this guy's got to win. Oh my God, this guy's got to win. Like, and flicking all the channels. I'm like, oh, whatever. I put the bet in. If it wins, it wins. Great. If not, whatever. My life continues on. But these people get so consumed with this stuff. It's like, where does that get you, dude? Like they got you. You're working in the wheel, and then you're sucked into this other wheel, and now they're just juggling you around, and they're keeping you occupied. So yeah, man,
that's the same thing as investing in the stock market. No control.
Correct. No control. And everybody, look at Tesla. Look, I like Elon Musk. I think he's probably the smartest dude in the world. But everyone's investing in him, but they don't even turn a profit. Yet he's got some insane market valuation. People are like, just keep buying it. I'm like, what if this dude just like what do they call them? Like a psyop or one of those people that are on your side, but then they're trying to trick you. Like, what if, dude? What if you're dumping all this fucking money in there and then boom, they just like they pull the rug out? I don't think it'll happen, but still, you're investing in a company that's increasing in value that shows negative cash flow. Like that's crazy. And they want you to do that because they want you to stay in this rabbit hole of shit to try to, like, they control your money at that point. When it's on Wall Street, I mean, think about who the biggest owners of most of the companies on Wall Street is. It's BlackRock. It's what's the other one? BlackRock, Vanguard, and there's one more. They're the three biggest controllers. They're the three biggest ones that have the most issues with everything we do in this world. And I would say until you're independently wealthy, the stock market is a place to store wealth, not necessarily a place to gain wealth.
Yeah, that's a really good point. No, you're not going to get wealthy putting your money in the stock market unless you're a day trader and that's your job and you understand the nuances.
Yeah. And this is why John and I take 4 hours to talk to each other every day, because we get so derailed on these conversations. But this is where the growth is, right? Like this is it. People say, well, who do you talk to every day? I talk to John, I talk to Jason, and I talk to one or two other people every day. And sometimes my days are just gone because I'm on the phone all day. But this is where you learn other things. Like we're in a text group. Someone shot a text, hey, this company's doing this. Shit, great idea. Let me go research it, right? Like staying in communication and learning other ideas. And a lot of the time, if you are working a W-2, and I don't know if this is the conversation we're having, but like I was in a W-2 where a lot of people wanted to take you down and not see you get to that next level. And surrounding yourself with the right people, consuming the content. If you can't surround yourself with the right people, at least go consume the content of the right people that are going to help you get to the next level. And there's a lot of good content out there. And I'm not going to be selfish and say it's mine or John's. I'm going to say there is a lot of really good fucking content out there. If you want to get motivated and you can't find a friend group that's going to motivate you, I will say stay in the YouTube wormhole because you will find some legit people. There's Goggins, there's Milet, there's Dan Pena, there's Andy Frisella, there's Hermosi, there's Russell Brunson. There's all these dudes. If you really want to be motivated, there's someone out there for you to get you to that next level, whether you know them or you don't.
Yeah. Well, and I don't know, I do want to get back to your story at some point.
Let's go back to our story.
But hold on. I think it's easier now than ever from what we know in time to make money and be successful and be wealthy. And I get it. That's not for everybody. Not everyone wants to do that. But it's easier now than ever, right? Like society's put such a bad stigma on just money itself that I think that's ruined a lot of people's framework. And it's like, no, you know what? I'm good working 40 hours. I'm okay with my job. I kind of like it. I'm okay where I'm going. I've got, I'm going to have $2 million in my 401k by the time I retire. I'm okay. You know what? If that's you, there's nothing wrong with that. I think what we're talking about is once you kind of, it's like the red, blue pill, right? In Matrix. It's like once you see the other side, it's like there's so much more out there. And even if it's not money, and you could probably talk to this, when you quit your job, there's so much mental clarity. And it doesn't necessarily happen right away, but there's so many things that open up that you just see things completely different.
That's 100%. I don't want to, I don't know which way you're going with my story. I will talk about clarity when I get to my quitting section of the story, depending where we're going. But if you want me to talk about it now, I'm more than happy to, because it was the biggest weight ever lifted off my shoulders. But, let's keep going down the story.
Let's back up. So 2012, you guys got your first Section 8 house. What did you guys do? Did you guys do the rehab yourself or contract that out?
So in 2012, the first house that I ever bought, I actually did that one on my own. Dude, I had no fucking clue. I paid $25,000. I maybe put 25, 30 grand into it. I don't know. I was out there doing the plumbing. I can't say it was right, but I did it. I was out there doing the painting, the sheetrock. I did everything, right? I just go find some guys in the firehouse, pay them a few $100. Let's go do some shit. I had no clue what I was doing, but I knew immediately that I could not sustain this if I wanted to grow. So I did that house. And then I went down. So long story short, I was all in for about 50, 60 grand. I got $1,250 rent. I got my credit almost to a place where it was respectable enough to get a loan. I took the cash flow, even with the hard money loan, I was able to take extra cash and go get rid of my debts. I would go work side work on top of doing this house. I was landscaping. I would go and do whatever I had to do to make some extra money to keep paying my debts off to get my credit score up. And finally, when I refinanced it, I want to say my mortgage payment was all in at $600, and my cash flow was $600 a month, $650 a month. Dude, that you gotta understand,
really good.
An overtime shift then, to be fair, I didn't have really good track of my numbers. I just fuck it. I need 50 grand because I think that's what I have into it. But dude, and my first mortgage rate was 3.1 something percent. It was insane. Yeah. And I didn't know what I had then. If I had known what I know today, I would have done thousands of houses that one year. Right. But what I did learn was $650 a month in cash flow was the world to me. And I was like, well, shit, it takes me 2 callbacks or 2 overtime shifts to get that same money, but I can't even work overtime. So I said, screw it, let's go buy another house. So I took that same lender, same property in the similar area, and did the same thing, except this time I got people to come do the sheetrock. I got people to come do different items. So my all-in cost was a little bit higher, but boom, this one I started cash flowing $500. So I started growing. Well, one of the houses, I got Dan, my current business, my business partner. He was doing some electric work for me, and I think he just said, fuck this, what am I doing? Because he was trying to get extra money to get out of some issues that he had. So he started learning about wholesaling. So from 2012 to about 2014, I had 10 houses on my own. Dan gets into wholesaling, and we grew up together. And he says to me, hey, dude, I got this package of 4 houses. I want to wholesale 3 of them, and I want to flip the 4th. And I said, all right, dude, fuck it, let's do it. So we flipped the 4th. We wholesale the 3 off. We flipped the 4th. We had a 6-figure payday, and said, dude, that was fucking awesome. Let's do it again. 6 months go by, find another house, other side of town. Coincidentally, the first house we ever did was 1112 Scott Street, and then the second house we ever did was 1112 Steelton. It's funny, the same address number. But anyway, boom, bang that one out. We sell it. We make 40, 50 grand flipping that house. We're like, dude, this is awesome. A couple months later, we formalized everything, started D&I development. Granted, we're called Equity Warehouse now, but D&I development, and off to the races we went out, raised $1 million from someone that we knew, and we just hit the ground running, and we just went for it because we didn't know any better. We were both in a position, we were trying to make sure our wives didn't have to go to work every day. They could stay at home, take care of our kids. And it's worked out insanely good today. But yeah, that's the very humble beginnings of where we started. So,
yeah. So 12, 14, single family, Section 8. We'll fast forward a little bit. Next 6 years, What'd you pick up?
Yeah.
Obviously, you're building a team during this time too, right?
Yeah. So one thing that we did really well, and like people look at us today and say, well, you're in all these different asset classes. But what we did really well from 2012 to late 18, early 19, is we did single family houses really, really well. We learned how to we learned how to renovate and build houses. We learned how to instill a project manager. We learned how to hire a maintenance guy. We learned how to bookkeep. We learned how to talk to banks in what we were really good at and get lines of credits from them. We were able to bring investors in to start investing with us. We did single family houses really, really good that allowed us to launch to the next level. So from essentially 2012, from when I started and Dan started, I mean, we've probably flipped like a little over 100 houses. We built a 100 house portfolio. We started buying some small commercial, small multifamily in that time frame. And then we got priced out in 2019, and we really took a step back. And that's when we said, okay, like, let's concentrate on operations. Let's take a deep breath, because in the marketplace, we'd be all in for 120 grand, getting $1,250 rent. They were worth $150. We could do them all day because at $150, I'll save you the time, energy, and effort. 75% of that is $120,000. If we knew we were in under $120,000, great, we get some money back. If we were over $120,000, great, we'd have to pay some money out. Sometimes we would just straight break even. It all worked out, right? But we knew our metric. We knew our exact number. Deals would pop up. We'd go buy them. Our good friend Terry Royce, he'd have like 6, 7 houses he couldn't wholesale. Terry will take all of them. You know what I mean? Like we knew what we wanted, where we wanted, and how we wanted to finance it. And we got really good at building our product. So then in 19, when it all slows down and we built this portfolio, it's like, well, what is next? Well, we didn't know what next was. And that's when I went back to the well, started studying YouTube again, started looking at other people's syndications, learning about multifamily, learning about self-storage, and getting out there and really grinding and applying what we've learned and done there, but on bigger assets. So from there in 2019 is kind of when we transitioned from single family real estate to commercial real estate.
That's awesome. And at this point in time, it's you two, and who else? You have a team. You've built somewhat of a team, right?
Yes. So over that time frame, and don't quote me, but Ryan stepped in. He became our project manager. I mean, that was like really scary, because there's cash coming in, there's cash flowing out the door. We had no clue. I think at the time, don't quote me, Ryan. Don't beat me up if you're watching this, but I want to say we offered him 50 or 60 grand to come and work for us. We didn't fucking know any better. He had his own company. He was subbing for us. We offered him the position. He really wanted to take it. Look, it's blossomed into something really beautiful today, but we had no fucking clue. You know what I mean? It was the first employee we ever had. Like we didn't even have an office. We would go to Corner Bakery or Panera Bread on Thursdays, and we would go do payroll. Dan would sit there and write checks, and Ryan would go distribute them. Dude, we didn't even have a fucking office, Yeah. And then from there, we added some maintenance guys part-time. And then when we bought a 76-unit apartment building, we hired an office manager. But now today, we have almost 15 employees. But yeah, dude, that was scary stuff. Like we didn't know any better. Everyone was like, oh, you'll know when you need to hire someone. No, you don't, dude. Like you're like, fuck, how are you going to afford something? I don't fucking know, And then there's times where you're like, man, thank God I did it. But looking back on it, in that moment in time, it was the hardest decision I think we ever made because we didn't know any better, dude. Like there was no one to like, hey, what do you do here? And I think too many people do online make it like, oh, you'll just know when it's right to do it. Well, no, you don't, because like you're enjoying cash flows and you're like, Well, if I pay someone 50, 60 grand a year, well, then what? Well, that money comes out of someone's pocket, right? But it should also free up bandwidth to grow and expand. And that's what we learned was freeing us up there allowed us to go back to the office to then concentrate on everything that we were ignoring that we never realized we ignored until we said, oh, okay, well, Ryan's handling the day-to-day. Shit, we got to get our books right. Okay, we got to get our taxes right. Okay, we got to get deal flow process right. Great, we need to find more vendors. It allowed me to free up and say, hey, vendor, I do want to go golf with you. I do want to go get lunch with you. I want to talk about pricing because you have the time freedom to do it. Yep. In the moment in time, you're out there grinding. You are the one that has to take care of everything. But if you can realize at some point that you don't have to be the one and start to move your way out, it'll allow your company to breathe and ultimately it'll provide a better product for everybody involved.
Yep. Well, and way back then, which we're talking 5 years ago, masterminds, I don't think were really on the forefront. At least I didn't know much about them. Like I learned most of my stuff, like you said, podcasts, YouTube. My guess is you've probably come further faster through masterminds, and we've been in some and gone to other events, but you didn't have that at your fingertips then, right? It was you and Dan trying to piece things together. You just took action and pulled the lever, just did it, which there's power in doing that. But how much do you think things would have changed if you guys would have gotten plugged into some type of mastermind, we'll say 10 years ago?
Yeah, I think we would have done something a little more formal and really bucked up. Because again, like spend 50 grand there, spend 50 grand on an employee. It's like, it's a no brainer, right? Yep. Like spend 50 grand on the employee and let's figure it the fuck out. Hindsight, probably should have spent 50 grand on the mastermind and 50 grand on the employee. And God knows where we would be today. But, you know, a lot of it is just limiting beliefs, you know? Yep. So, there's still days when I'm like, even though we have a mastermind together, it's like, I'm like, oh, do I really want to go sing Kumbaya? Because sometimes it can turn into those types of sessions and you're not always ready for that. Yep. You know, and I think being a part of a group that allows you to speak with other business operators and realize, and like, dude, everybody does it. I don't care who you are. Everybody. I guarantee Gary Vee has someone he puts up on a pedestal. I guarantee Andy Frisella has someone he puts up on a pedestal. While they might not admit it in public, everybody has that one person. And I mean, we've been in rooms with really high people.
Are you trying to say I'm your one person? Is that what you're getting at?
What are you doing later? What's up? No, but everyone's got that one person that they put on a pedestal that they're like, man, that dude's got it figured the fuck out. And you know this because I've been in rooms where they're like, yeah, I want my business to look like John Farling's. And I'm like, well, yeah, dude, I respect that. But like, I talked to John and I know he's got fucking problems. Like, no offense, but like you got problems. I've been in rooms where people are like, I want my business to look like yours. I'm like, dude, listen, like I do not have it figured the fuck out. I'm going to let you know right now. And what the rooms do is basically take that person and rip the cape off of them. And you're like, fuck, that person's no better than me. I mean, we have a friend of ours, owns a massive landscaping company, has a great CDL drivers program, brings money in hand over fist, and me and you both sit there every day. And you're like, dude, that guy's got it figured out. He's got it figured out. But then you get in a room and he's just like, yeah, dude, I don't know that I got it figured out. And you're like, dude, you got all this shit. How's that possible? Like, dude, you're doing millions of dollars a year. Like, this is great. Like, you're insane for thinking that. And yes, looking at other people's problems and trying to help them, it also gut checks you to be like, man, I just told so-and-so, I just told John to go hire an employee, but yet I don't have any fucking employees. Well, dude, now you're a fraud, right? So the rooms do two things. They help make you realize that everybody's the same. Everybody's got problems. And number two, it humbles you in what you're spouting and what you're doing every day in your own actions. So the long-winded answer to your question is, yes, probably should have done a fucking mastermind back then. And who knows where we'd be today.
Yeah. Well, the best way to learn is by teaching, right? And I think that's part of those rooms too, right? Like you just said it. There are times where we say things to someone else because we have the answer for other people's problems. We just don't have the answer for our own problems. Until we say it to someone else and then it clicks in like a week later and it's like, oh, what I told so-and-so I should probably implement as well. Which it is what it is. But all right, so 19, I know you got into storage. How did you find storage? What's that? I don't think we've ever talked about that. How'd you get in the storage and how'd you find it? And obviously,
so it's kind of, imagine this. It's a long-winded story because I don't ever shut the fuck up. But I'll give it to you because I love your audience. So 2018, 19, a friend of ours, Pete, comes to us, says, hey, I got 34 units of multifamily out in Ranson, West Virginia. And I'm like, dude, West Virginia, I'm thinking banjos, the whole nine. Really, it's an extension of Maryland. We had never syndicated a deal. We had never, at this point, let anybody else but us manage our own properties. We've never done anything out of state. And we said, Pete, just go do it yourself. And he keeps coming back. Similar situation to what we were just talking about. He's like, no, dude, you guys got me started in the business. I can't do this on my own. I want to do it with you. I said, all right, man. Well, we're going to split it in thirds. So we split it in thirds and we do this property. And it turns out that it's a bit of a gold mine. It's a really good property. But there's no scale for us in Ranson, West Virginia, because it's a tiny ass town. It's a tiny ass MSA. Like there's not a gigantic market. We can't expand. Well, a couple months later, after doing this deal, as the world would have it, someone brings us an owner finance 76 unit apartment building. And we're like, dude, it's in Baltimore City. This is in our wheelhouse. Really long story. We end up.
This is a long story.
Well, no, listen, I'm going to get there. Why we ended up in storage is we end up with this deal. And it was like, shit. Dude, maybe multifamily's the thing. Let's go, dude. Like, we got a 7 unit. We got 34 units. We got a 76 unit. Let's go find more multifamily. But, dude, it's 2019 when money's cheap. Deals are flowing. Everybody's in multifamily. And I'm like, dude, there's no way. And a friend of ours said, hey, I'm going to this event from this guy. You want to go? Sure, I'll go check out storage. I got there. I was like, fuck, that was amazing. Went to another guy's event, a group that we were a part of. Went to his group. I was like, shit, this is amazing. Went back to the other guy's group. I was like, this is still amazing. And that's how I got the start in storage. I thought that there was plenty of bandwidth and growth opportunities to buy a lot of storage, right? Because if you start doing deals, like you want to have bandwidth. Last thing you want to do is go buy a multifamily property and then can't do another one, right? Like, and I just realized in storage, it really opened up our marketplace. It allowed us to diversify our market from Baltimore City, which if you know Baltimore, it's an interesting place. Got us out of the state of Maryland. We also had issues understanding how to, even though we had a great relationship in West Virginia, thinking about owning multifamily real estate all across this country gives us agita. Whereas owning commercial assets where people aren't living in them is a little bit easier to swallow. And that's how we ended up on storage. It was just like, all right, well, we can get out of this marketplace. There's a ton of opportunity. We could even build some if we want. It's pretty easy to understand how and where you should build self-storage. Well, fuck it. Let's get into this. And that's what really launched us into self-storage was the opportunity and the path to acquiring more than just one deal.
Yeah. And you're like you said, it's probably smart too. You start investing in other areas other than Baltimore, which is probably tougher to do in other asset classes, right? Especially single family, unless you buy a huge portfolio with systems already in place. Let's fast forward a little bit because I usually ask this question. This is like my big question that I came up with myself. So I'm proud of it. One huge transition in your life that's gotten you here. And I'm guessing it's probably about 2 years ago.
Well, thanks for framing it up and making me say it. But
unless you got another one.
Well, I was going to say it's 2023, so I could transition to anything I want. But really what it was, the number one transition, or would you ask the number one what? The number one
biggest transition in your life that's gotten you where you are now.
Yeah, I would say number one would be hiring Ryan has been an amazing thing for us. And I'd say number one side by side, or number two is quitting my fucking job, quitting our jobs and having true bandwidth and like operating real estate every single day and making this our full-time job, because before, while we were respected, it was still always viewed as a hobby. Well, before we would still go to work and I thought I could manage going to work and running a real estate portfolio side by side with Dan and Ryan. It turns out that really we were just white knuckling, taking a ride, thinking we had it all under control. But there was a lot more stuff that we weren't doing, because the day we quit to now, or a few months ago, I mean, we probably doubled portfolio size, if not more. I mean, immediately, like, it was a rush right out the door. And that was probably one of the best things that we have done. I mean, that was the clearest, like, thing that we have done. Like, when we hired Ryan, like, we knew it was a great thing for us. I don't think we realized it until you look back on it. Versus when we quit, it was like obvious. It was like, boom, in your face. There's tons of opportunity. I get to work these hours. I don't have to get up for the man. Like, like the weight that's just lifted off your shoulders when you quit. You're like, holy shit, that is just an amazing feeling. And I would say that's probably the number one thing. Now, I hope your audience doesn't take it as go quit your job tomorrow. I mean, we had a lot of things in place the day we quit. But for us, when we did quit, it was huge for us.
How did you, obviously your business was impacted when you quit. How was your life, your family life, everything outside of business? How was that impacted?
Well, today's not a good day to ask that, but 9.9 times out of 10, life's a lot better, dude. I mean, sleep-ins every night, spend more time with the wife and family, more home cooked meals. I mean, I'm still a fat dude, but I mean, I'm telling you, I shaved 20, 30 pounds off immediately. Even with growing this big ass beard, like, it was gone. Like, the stress was gone. The cortisol was like gone. The eating all the bullshit was gone, sleepless nights gone. So that was definitely a big thing for me. I mean, family life, family time, like, I just finished coaching fall ball with the girls. For my oldest, like, dude, I think I sit there and think about it. I was like, well, how the fuck would I manage my schedule that we work 4 weekends, like 4 week. There's only 2 weekends you don't work out of an 8 weekend cycle. And man, that'd be really hard to imagine, of like trying to get off all the time and spending time with the girls and more family time. And look, it's a massive adjustment for me, because we were away a lot. Holidays aren't a thing for me, but like getting to do, like, knowing you're going to do Christmas, knowing you're going to do Halloween, not having an excuse, like, I got to go to work, and just like duck out of all that shit. It's a different challenge, but it's a fun challenge to take on. I'm not, I'll be transparent with you guys. I'm not like a huge, like life person like that. I hope that makes sense. You know what I'm trying to say, but it is fun to be able to be a part of like all these other things that I wasn't exposed to before, or even in my early childhood, that I get to do now with my kids and my wife, which is super fun. Yeah,
no, it's awesome. So we'll fast forward your business a little bit here. You've got what, 700,000 square feet of storage?
Yeah,
right?
we directly own and operate about 600,000 square feet. We own about 700,000 square feet. We have about 250 residential units between multifamily and single family, and we have a little over 100,000 square feet of commercial space, like light industrial / office. That's what the portfolio. We have a couple Airbnbs too, but that's what the portfolio looks like today. So
yeah, and still growing, obviously. What's your because I'm sure we're gonna hit on a few other things here, but I try to keep this under an hour if we can. What's your best attribute in life and business?
You taking the words right out of my mouth, because obviously it's the looks, but I would say it's motivation and always thinking positively. I would say I did a podcast the other day and someone said, what's your motivational quote? I said, I don't really get into motivational quotes from other people. Like, I'm sure there's something that sticks in my head, but I can't really think of it off the top of my head. But what does stick to the top of my head is like telling people to go swing the bat, because we swing the bat every day. Like, you can't get a hit unless you swing the goddamn bat, right? And I think that's really important, and always being able to say, okay, shit happened. How do we get to the next level? Not like, you got to remember, I worked with a bunch of dudes that it was like, end of the world's coming. Guys are living paycheck to paycheck. It's like, whatever, we're putting our lives on the line. Fuck it. Let's go drink all weekend. Like, dude, like, those days are like way behind me. And I just look at it as like being positive and be like, all right, this is fucked up. What are we doing next to get to the next spot? This works. Let's get to the next spot. I want to try something new, go swing the bat, right? And just being positive and always advancing forward is a positive thing for me. But my business partner luckily has the complete opposite and is always pulling the reins back. And that's how we build that nice push-pull relationship. I push him out of his comfort level. He keeps me reined the fuck in. And that's how we built what we built today.
And is your wife similar to your business partner in that regard?
1,000,000,000%.
So you need someone always holding you back, is what you're saying.
Now, holding back is not the right.
Not holding back.
Holding back is not the right word. Gut checking the dumb fucking ideas that I get sometimes. It's like, well, wait a second, dude. Like, you got this going on, you got that going on, you got this going on. How the fuck are you going to manage another thing? And I always say, I got it. Don't worry about it. But part of that is realizing when you have team and employees in place, it's like, well, if I just could do X, Y, and Z, then I can put so-and-so in place to then do X, Y, and Z so I can continue to go do the other thing. I just saw a thing from a reel from someone the other day. And we all got our vices. I spend too much time on Facebook and Instagram. But someone was talking about, what's his name that owns Virgin Airlines. He owns 400 fucking businesses, I think.
Jeez.
And everything flows through his secretary. Nothing gets to him unless his secretary has answered it. Oh, maybe you sent it. Did you send it to me? You probably sent it.
I don't remember. I saw it though.
And I was like, God damn, what a concept, right? And think about how much more bandwidth, and bandwidth could be whatever you want. For me, bandwidth equates to doing more business and spending more time with my family. Having that one thing allows you to go do that much more stuff, right? And if you could do more business by having that one employee in place, it could also allow you to have more free time with your family, and they can grow side by side, not one or the other. I think too many people are one, other, and it's like, no, you can do both great at the same time. Most people just don't want to put the systems in place to be able to do both at the same time.
Yeah.
Look, I'm not great at it either. I haven't figured it the fuck out. I try to every day, but
small improvements each day. So you hit on a good point. Actually, a mastermind that I just joined, the COO, whatever his name is, he said something about in the room, in an email, one of the introduction emails, he said, make sure you guys send me your assistant's email. And I'm like, assistant? Like what?
Yeah, assistant what? Right.
Yeah. And then we all got in the room and he's like, okay, I see a lot of you guys don't have assistants. If you don't have a personal assistant, you need to get one. And in mine, I'm thinking, and this is similar to a year and a half ago when people were telling me I need to hire a full-time employee. I'm like, what's a personal assistant going to do? I get 7 emails a day. Like, right. I don't get it. Are you at a spot where you need a personal assistant? Throw out your text messages and Instagram reels. Other than that, do you think you would have more bandwidth if you had an assistant? Personal assistant.
Well, I don't think that guy has a fair statement, because I know you have an ops manager who she answers a bunch of stuff for you. And I think you could put those tasks on her to be like, hey, so-and-so is going to email you about this, and you can handle it. So, and I'm going to use that selfishly to launch myself to the next point of defining a true assistant. I think too many people have like the old school mentality of secretary that sat out in front of the big boss's office.
Yep.
Whereas I look at it is, and I've had this debate in a lot of rooms of, I think it's selfish and wrong to have all the business on your back and not advance employees and hire people and build your company big enough to have them, right? Because you're giving people the opportunity to succeed. So do I have a direct assistant? No. But if I got that exact email, I would say, reach out to Dawn or Raquel from my office. I would say, hey, listen, I know we don't do this, but can you handle this for me? Because I don't think we need an assistant, because we have so many employees that are doing work for us on a daily basis. Like, I jumped on a call 10 minutes before we recorded this. I said, cool, you got it handled. He just wanted our ops manager for the storage stuff. He just wanted a couple verification on things, and that's it. And he's keeping it moving. He's onboarding 5 new stores. I think I've spent less than an hour on the whole situation. And to me, that is impactful and powerful. So to say I have a true assistant, no. Do I have an assistant? Roundabout way, yes, I have employees that I could delegate tasks to. to handle whatever I need to handle. Because I go back and forth all the time. I was like, man, it'd be cool if I had like a VA that was like truly my assistant. Because like I booked my airfare to go to speak at someone's event in a few weeks. And then I'm like, why the fuck am I doing this? Oh, that's right. Because I don't want someone else booking my airfare because I want to kind of control my timeline and my guidelines and everything else. So yeah, I don't know. It's a weird question, but I think having the team around you, and I know I'm just talking to talk at this point, but I'm trying to talk through this situation because I don't have one and I am in the same position of you. I think having a team around you to delegate tasks to is more important than per se having an assistant.
Yeah. And I think that's probably what needs to be hit on is everyone's situation is different. Real estate investing. Yeah, if you've got 10 houses, 20 houses, you're probably a one-man band. You're doing a lot of things yourself. You're probably just running ragged and you probably need some type of an assistant. The systems that you've got in place, you've delegated a lot of the, especially business tasks, and you're holding on to the business things that you're good at, and you've held on to personal things that you want to do as well. And, there's obviously nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
And I don't, as you grow, you figure those things out too, right? If you're traveling 20 times out of the year, maybe eventually you do need someone to book all your airlines.
Yeah. And I think stuff's flowed through enough now that like, I think we have enough layers in place or enough employees in place is a better way to put it, that what flows to my desk is tax problems, new deals, and investor stuff. And anything else that slips through the crack is like legit issues. Today, so far, I've handled a couple issues on our investor platform. I've handled some loan stuff. And I think that's pretty much all I've handled today. And then I booked my airfare, but I also have the bandwidth to go book my airfare, right? Like, to delegate, to be able to delegate stuff, I think is what is more important out of this whole thing. So,
yep. No, that's good. So let's, unless anything else comes up, let's hit on a little bit the mastermind the events that we've put on, the somewhat groups that we've kind of put together. What's your vision or idea of doing a mastermind?
Well, it looks like we're about to mastermind in front of the whole fucking world. So
yeah, let's do it.
But this is why we do it, right? And we did put together a group because John and I saw a need, a fit out of some other groups that we were involved in to build something that speaks to people that want to continue to do business and do life side by side with it. And we've done 4 events now. 3 of them more or less have either been in one of our hometowns, and we finally did one on the road. And we had someone plan the whole thing. By the way, thank you, Liz, if you're listening.
Yep. Thank you.
Speaking of assistants or whatever you want to call it, team members to delegate shit to, she fucking crushed it, dude.
Yep.
And it makes it more fun. It makes us want to go do more events because, dude, we had almost 20 people with business partners and everything, about 25 people in this room between vendors, attendees, business partners. 25 people who we know that are killers in life and then killers in business or want to be killers in business. And that was a pretty powerful room. I mean, we literally had people from every part of this country. I mean, who the fuck knows anyone from Iowa? We had someone from Iowa there, but it was fun, right? We had people from all over the country that are aspiring to do stuff. And to me, I'd like to continue to do them. Are they going to be formal, like a monthly subscription? Some months I want that. Other months I'm going to go, fuck it. Why do we need that? It's really just a group that John and I want to have. It's a group of people that we want to hang out with. And I think that's what's important. We've created a newer mid-level group of people that want to learn about self-storage as a feeder program to our mastermind, but ultimately the mastermind is really where we live, and that's our sphere of excellence. And the self-storage secrets group is a place where we get to pass back and give back our knowledge that we've learned to get to where we are today. Because our group, our LFG mastermind group, is what we call high level. We're not just talking about storage. We're not just talking about family. We're talking about new asset classes. We're talking about wealth preservation. We're talking about building trust. We're talking about, well, if I can do this asset class, why can't I go buy a landscape company or start a flight school or whatever it may be of advancing to that next level. Because once you figure out how to put the widget in the top and get the cog out the bottom, it's really just a rinse and repeat and building silos and building generational wealth. And I think that's what John and I both believe in and how we connect. So I will flip it and push it back on you. What do you have a vision for the group?
Yeah, I haven't. It changed. It's unfortunately, what's that?
You motherfucker. I knew you were this is why I'm on your podcast. You're not on mine. All right.
Yeah. Well, no, it's hey, we can talk about this because one, I think we're both want to do it for the right reason, and that's to help people, right? And selfishly, we want to get something out of it as well, which is why we want high-level people in business and life around us. I think frame it the way that we've got Self-Storage Secrets, which is a Facebook group, as like a free community. And then we've got our higher level LFG Mastermind, which is 2 events a year. Is the way it's formed right now. Where it goes from here, I have no idea. Every week's different. I've gone to 3 events, including ours in October. And it's like, I have no desire to do any type of group right now. I love the one-off events. But yeah, even though the one that I came back from last week, that was in Vegas, it's like sitting there in that room. I'm like, I really enjoy the in-person rooms, events, whatever. I enjoy the in-person. But when I get home, like I enjoy doing business. That's what I want to do. I want to grow my business and work in my business.
That's what I was about to say is, we have to respect our time and our boundaries. It's like, you could be in a group every day if you wanted to, and you could literally go live every day. Like if we wanted to, we could go live in our group every day, and that's our only business. But then what happens is we lose sight of actually doing business, and then we're not doing business anymore. Are we really useful to you, right? Or are we just talking dumb shit to you versus going to continue and do business and be like, here's exactly what I'm seeing in the market. This is exactly what I'm working on. Who's got some feedback or who can use this information? As soon as you stop doing business, I think people, especially nowadays online, it's pretty easy to figure out who's doing business and who's selling something that they've done before and not doing it anymore. And it happens in every asset class. It happens in every group. You find people that just aren't doing business. And it makes it hard to run a group because it's like, well, what worked yesterday doesn't work today.
Yep.
And when you're in real time dealing with it, when you're dealing with it in real time, you can provide better feedback to what's working for you. People resonate with that better because guess what? You can't buy facilities right now and try to double them because the market has tightened up a lot. People are still trying to sell for crazy numbers, and the back end is not as good as what it's used to be. So are you buying for a cash flow? Are you looking for different opportunities? Are you looking for expansion opportunities? Has anyone been looking at development? Right? These are all things that we talked about inside our mastermind group. This is like just like a brief. Like we went and did a facility tour of a gentleman who has this beautiful property, and he's like, here, I need to get over X hurdle, and I don't know how to get there. And we walked this facility, and he's like, I need help, guys. And we were able to help and talk through different profit centers, different relationship ideas, different things to be like, hey, man, can you try this? Can you try that? Can you do this? Can you do that? And get him over that hump because we want him to see him succeed. We also talked about, I just fielded a text from one of our members today. Hey, why do you use Steve Bowles, who I've had on my podcast? Why are you using him and doing life insurance policies and building a trust through that? We had a conversation about that. We also talked about someone who has a massive landscaping company, and he's like, sometimes I want to sell, sometimes I want to keep it, right? Like these are all the different things that we get to talk about. And I think that's the importance of continuing to do business every single day. It keeps you in the know and allows you to be better, right? Like I think about a coach, like I sometimes find myself, and I'm coaching 10-year-old girls softball. Now, look, I'm not a great athlete per se. I understand motivation, one thing the girls get a lot of. I was not a great baseball player by any means. And someone said to me, I can't believe you're coaching softball. I'm like, well, there's some days I feel like a fucking fraud because I'm only so good at baseball and certain techniques, and I don't know all the drills. I'm only kind of remembering what worked for me. And yeah, YouTube, university, and all these other things. But even teaching 10-year-old girls softball, some days I feel like a fraud. I'm like, man, I wish I was better at softball. So you know what I did? I went out and found my business partner's sister who played softball at a super high level. I said, Caitlin, can you come out and speak to my girls and show them stuff, right? You don't always have to be the expert. And I guess what I'm getting at is I think the reason we're non-committal on the group sometimes is because we want to do business and we don't want our business to be coaches.
Yep. Well, and to add to that, the event that I went to last week, and I'll probably talk about it next episode, but it was supposed to be super high level, and the guy that put it on is considered super high level, high name in the space, big name in the space, and he was going to invite another single family real estate investor that's turned into a huge educator. If you're in real estate investing, like you know the name, he was going to invite him to this room because we're in Vegas and the dude lives in Vegas, but he didn't want to invite him because he's not doing enough deals. And I'm like, that's the room I want to be in. I don't want to be in the room with all the gurus who are no longer doing real estate, right?
Right.
He now has a different business. It's education. And there's nothing wrong with that, right? He's helping a ton of people. That's awesome. But I'm not going to get a ton out of that. I'm not going to relate to it because it's not what I enjoy. I enjoy giving back, helping people, but I enjoy growing my business and helping people that way too.
And like, this is the most egotistical thing I'll ever say, but it's like, when you're good at business, why wouldn't you continue to do business? Whether we're good or not, in our own minds, we feel like we're good at doing business. So we want to continue to do business, like to hit the pause button and be like, yeah, well, fuck it, I'm going to teach. I'm like, well, that doesn't do it for me. Like, I agree with you. And the reason I haven't found another room to get into is I haven't found someone where I'm like, all right, I want to be in this dude's room because I think they're doing big things and I want to be a part of that room.
Yep.
And ultimately, you need to find that room where you resonate with people and you are the dumbest person in the room. That's where you want to be. And I think the leader of the group, someone did say it right. They said they always need to be working on themselves. And sometimes working on themselves and what you want out of the group might be something that you resonate with them. And sometimes you might join a group and it's not all business. And you're like, well, I'm here for life reasons, or I'm here for this type of reason because I do believe in what the person's doing. There is advantages to that. I think the people who are running the group always need to be working on themselves. And again, that's something else. And I'm like, sometimes I gut check myself, but I also think working on myself includes going to other events, learning about new asset classes, learning about different ways to manage our wealth as we move forward in life and have exits. I think those are all really important things that I'd like to share with other people and a way that we work on ourselves and continue to grow and do business.
It's awesome.
And notice how we say business, not real estate, right? Like at some point, it's going to be more than just real estate. It's going to be business as a whole, right? Like I think the opportunity is massive wherever you look. Once you figure out how to make money, you can rinse and repeat that anywhere in any asset class, any part of the country.
Yep.
Maybe even world.
Yeah. So LFG Mastermind in a nutshell is the last 12 minutes. We have no idea what we just said, but
yeah, well, I can tell you this much. We are doing an event in Dallas. It is invite only.
Yep.
It will be sometime in March. And if you really, I don't even know why John brought it up. This is not a pitch for our shit, but I'm about to pitch it. If you really want to be a part of it and you want to be in a room with some killers, if we have any seats available, reach out to John or I. But like I said, it is usually reserved, invite only. And John usually seeks out people that we want to spend time with in the room, and that is it. There's no way to sign up for it. There's no way you will get interviewed by us. And we like to keep the room to people that we want to hang out with and we want to learn from.
Yep. So speaking of that, how can people find you?
Equity Warehouse on all the social platforms. You can check us out, equitywarehouse.com. You can learn about how we co-invest with our friends and family on real estate. If you want to directly communicate with me, you can go through there, or my favorite place to communicate is on Instagram at Equity Warehouse, where I do content on all the social sites, but the majority of time spent that I should not be spending on social media is generally speaking on Instagram. It's the best way to get a hold of me. Direct message me. I'm always happy to have a conversation. And if I forget, just nudge me and I'll usually say hi at some point. So
yeah, and make sure he doesn't send all his reels to you.
Memes. Yeah, I got
We won't
plenty of
go there.
memes, animated GIFs. If we get that friendly, you will eventually get some of my favorite animated GIFs stolen from other people. But I like to keep it fun and interesting because I used to sit in a firehouse that was nothing more than a frat house where boys talk shit, and it was a grand old time. And I like to keep that going because it did keep us young and fun. So
For sure. Awesome, man. Awesome. Well, awesome show. I appreciate it. We were over an hour. It felt like 15 minutes, but appreciate it, man. Ton of feedback, ton of nuggets that people can take home, take to use. And again, if you guys want to learn more about LFG Mastermind or reach out to Ian with all your newbie questions or mid-level or high-level questions, you can find them. Thanks again for listening.
Thanks for following, subscribing, and listening to this episode of the Do More podcast hosted by John Farling. To learn more or ask questions, go to l4investing.com.